Woven in Scotland, Harris Tweed is one of the most iconic fabrics on earth. These heavyweight 18-ounce pure woolens are famous for their warmth, durability, and complexity. Garments crafted in Harris Tweed are treasured heirlooms passed down from one generation to the next. There are 28 swatches in all, so let's start with some great patterns. This first one is called the Moss, Rust, and Cranberry Check. The ground here is a mixture of khaki and taupe, and I love that bold orange accent that runs straight through it. Next up is the Cobalt and Scarlet Check. The ground here is a really bold and striking blue tone. I absolutely love when this pattern is fully made up. It's brighter and more eye-catching than a navy, and this is really an unmistakable Harris Tweed signature. Next is the Loden Hunter Check. Again, we have a really punchy and handsome ground tone. I love how deep and vibrant this green is. The accents are a really cool and subtle mix of muted orange and cranberry. This definitely has the vibe of a traditional Scottish hunting garment. Next is the Indigo Slate Check. The ground here is a bit more subdued. It's a great combination of indigo and gray. Something that I really dig is the subtle fern green accent. It's a pretty thick line in the pattern, but it's not really apparent until you get up close to look at it. This is the Dark Raisin Check, and this is my personal favorite of all the patterns. It's a perfect raisin tone, and kind of an equal mix of dark purple and burgundy. And check out the colors here. This is really awesome goldenrod accent and an electric cobalt blue line, which you really have to look for closely. Next is Charcoal and Sky Check, and this is more of a traditional menswear pattern. You have this dark mottled gray ground paired with a midnight window pane, but then there's that eye-catching bright blue accent that really elevates it. Let's move on to some houndstooth patterns. This is the kind of thing that Harris Tweed is famous for. This first colorway is called Lichen Houndstooth, and this is about as classic English countryside as it gets. I love the light moss of the ground here and that bold chestnut line that you see running through it. The next colorway is Steel Olive Houndstooth, and as the name implies, this is a mixture of gray and olive for the ground. This is a really versatile neutral tone that really goes with anything, and I've actually made a lot of trousers out of this exact pattern and color before. Next up is Navy Houndstooth, and kind of like the swatch before this is a mixture of navy and gray. A great characteristic of fabric like this is if you order it as a jacket, it will go equally well with both navy and gray trousers. Moving on to some solids. This first color is Peat Solid Twill. And I absolutely love this tone. This really speaks so nicely to the colors that you would see hiking around the outdoors in Scotland. It's a vibrant blend of khaki, light fern, and light brown. The next color is Persimmon Solid Twill, and this is absolutely stunning. It's a beautiful shade of burnt orange, which is, for lack of any other words, just perfect. Orange is always a super bold color for tailored menswear, but this is muted and complex enough to really make it easy to pull off. This is Oxblood Solid Twill. And I'd say the name is pretty accurate. It is a dark, subdued burgundy with a pretty noticeable medium brown cast. Just like the persimmon, this is taking a bold color, toning it down, making it more complex, and making it into something really easy and wearable. This color is called Taupe Mist, and when it comes to Harris Tweed, I sometimes have to be pretty creative with my names. Harris Tweed always does these great neutrals which defy easy description. So this is a little bit taupe, it's a little bit pale olive, and it's a little bit khaki. The visuals really tell the story best. Moving along, this is Forest Twill. This is a Loden forest green, and it's one of the most handsome fabrics that Harris Tweed makes. It's excellent as a sport coat, it's great as a trouser, and it is absolutely phenomenal as an overcoat. This next color of solid twill is called bark. And I would say that's pretty apropos. It really does look a lot like a natural tree bark. This is really so cool, and it's emblematic of how Harris Tweed is able to take a solid tone and turn it into something really complex and interesting. This is grape solid twill. It is a very strong royal purple, but it also has a noticeable navy cast to it. I think that this color is just tremendous. This would make an absolutely incredible sport coat. And check out all the details and highlights hidden in the weave when you get up close. These chunky plain weave patterns are often called raindrops, and I have 3 colors. The first one is called Ghost Raindrop, and this is a mixture of ecru and very light and pale fern green. You can see some chestnut yarns when you look at it closely, which give it a really nice 3-dimensional pop. Next is Gray Raindrop. Here you have a grayscale mixture of lighter and darker yarns. This is a great way to do a versatile medium gray garment, but take it up a few notches with a really fascinating texture. And the last one is Blue Raindrop. Oftentimes I'll say things like navy or cobalt, but this is a straight up medium blue tone. It really goes with almost anything, including a dark navy. And just like the Gray Raindrop, this is a way to do a really versatile garment that still has a unique and amazing texture. Harris Tweed is suitably famous for their herringbones, and we have a ton of them. This first color is Antique Steel Herringbone, and this is one of those fantastic neutral tones that kind of defies an easy description. It's sort of a light gray with a light khaki, done in an antique warm color tone. Next is Pine Herringbone, and this one is amazing. This really embodies all of the beautiful colors of the Scottish countryside. It is insanely rustic and handsome. Check it out up close. It is so complex. I absolutely love this color. Moving along, this is the Violet Mist Herringbone. As you can see, the violet shade here is pretty subtle. Purple garments are such a sophisticated addition to your wardrobe, and this is a great way to jump into it. It's largely a neutral tone, so it will really go with almost anything else. Now we've got one of the all-time basics, the Silver Herringbone. This looks great in 2024, it looked great in 1974, it looked good in 1954, and it looked fantastic in 1924. If you catch my drift, this is about as timeless as it gets. Next up is the Gray Herringbone, which is just like the silver, but a few shades darker. Again, this is an absolutely timeless color and pattern, and this will work great with any garment that you order it for. Here's the Navy Herringbone, and with about 15 years of selling tailored clothing under my belt, I would say that this is the single best-selling color of Harris Tweed that I have ever offered. The color is easy, the texture is fantastic, and when you look at it closely, it's actually a lot more complex than it appears on first glance. Here's Chestnut Herringbone, and I think this is a fantastic brown tone. It's kind of a mixture of medium brown and brass, and it even has a subtle old gold cast to it. It's definitely a more vibrant and eye-catching alternative to the usual dark brown tweed. This herringbone color is called Green Mist. This is another great neutral, which is a mixture of pale light green and clay. It's a really traditional color for tweed sport coats, but definitely consider this as a trouser too. It's such a brilliant match to brown and cordovan footwear. The very last fabric in our selection is Olive Herringbone. This is far darker than the green mist, and it's more subdued than the forest herringbone. Like navy and gray, this is an extremely versatile and classic color for Harris Tweed.